All set?
Yep,
All set there, Naomi?
ready to go.
Okay,
All
great.
you, Dag. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Oh, we know out to everyone. Thank you so much for investing your time this afternoon. I think you all have probably far more important things to do than to talk story with me this afternoon. But yeah, I really appreciate you all coming and sharing your time with me because I think it's important for all of us to sort of, help each other. So the way I like to run these workshops is that it's an open conversation. It's really a talk story. So it's not a lecture. And so that's what I want to dispel. This is not a lecture. This is more of a talk story session. And what we're going to talk about today is something that's really oftentimes stops a young product or a young company from really succeeding because like any place else, if you ever went to a party and you made a bad entrance, what happens? People don't want to talk to you. And so in the world of business, it's the same thing. Your first entry into the marketplace sets the tone for how you're going to be received in those really critical first several months or first several years, especially. So today, this afternoon, we're going to talk a little bit from a high level perspective of certain strategies on how to enter a market. And again, this is a talk story session. If you got a question, just yell it out and I'll stop where I am and we'll see if I can answer it. If I can't answer it, I'll just apologize and say, oh, we'll talk about more about that later. So there's a lot of slides, and it's not death by PowerPoint, but it helps to, in a Zoom situation, a lot of times the diagrams and images help to convey, what I'm trying to get across. You will see a lot of diagrams and a couple of videos, and I like to use videos only because I get tired of hearing my voice, and I'm quite sure that my audience get tired of me speaking for an hour straight. So this will be about a 60-minute conversation. So are you all set? There's that. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up my first slides and I'll be talking over it. But again, if you have a question, you just yell it out and we'll stop and then we'll talk stories some more. So let me share my screen. Let me get this up and good. So, market entry strategies. A lean launch series, and so lean launch, we use a lean methodology, which has to do with the business model canvas and leaving the room and talking to people. And so this is in a series of 12 episodes of this series. This is number 4. So when you're entering a marketplace, and all of us, I'm sure tonight, has either tried to enter the market with a new product or even a new startup, and it seems like you got to run right into the wall. And I myself have started a lot of new products and companies as well, and I ran into a lot of walls, had a bloody nose and a really bruised forehead. And so what you want to do is we want to see, all right, yeah, we don't want to run into the wall. So what can we do? And one of the things we do in the world of marketing is a term called looking for the loose brick in the wall. And this is a way to approach entry before you even make that entry. You have to be prepared to find that loose brick in the wall. That's that brick that will give you an opening in which to attack and enter the marketplace. So we're going to examine 4 categories of talk stories areas. First one is, do you know your unique value proposition? What differentiates you from your competition and what value? The second area is, do you have a product market fit? This term is crucial to the for the lean launch terminology. You may not recognize it. We'll explain it when we get there. The third is, do you know your brand positioning in terms of the market and your competition? And the fourth area we'll do some talk story about is where and how are you going to enter the marketplace? So these are the 4 areas that we'll be investing in some conversation in the next 55 minutes or so. So let's look at the first one. Do you know your unique value proposition? And what it is, the unique value proposition is the product or feature or benefits, customer benefits that make you stand out. This is what's going to allow you to enter the market and be noticed. what happens a lot of time is that if you haven't figured out your unique value proposition, and we'll explain what it is, before you enter the marketplace, you may enter the marketplace and become a Me Too product or Me Too business. And if you enter the marketplace as a Me Too, your chances of success is relatively slim. So we want to make sure that prior to entering the market, you sort of understand what's my unique value proposition, what makes me different, what's makes my product different, what's making me stand out, and what's my strength. So you may not be familiar with the term value proposition. It's a marketing term. And the value proposition is really tells the customers why you should buy my product or my service. It answers four questions: who the customers are, what problems they have. Every business exists to solve a problem. So what problems do they have? What's your solution, which is your product or your service? And what differentiates you from your competition? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And so firms that are highly successful know exactly what makes them stand out and why. And it goes back to a real simple formula. It's called the value formula. And so all of us act, no matter what we're going to be doing, we act on this formula that we will act upon something that has value. And so this value is really created by this little division. It's benefits divided by price. And you can see on the left side with that small red value, you notice there's a small benefits and a big price. And when that occurs, of course, no one's going to buy a product. They don't even consider it. And the bottom one is you have a large green value and large benefits and price. And when that occurs, people buy it. The secret to this formula and the secret to the unique value proposition is the benefit side of it. You can create more value by adding more benefits or creating benefits or perceived benefits rather than just reducing your price. And this is critical. Excuse me. And that's what we're going to be looking at for the next couple of minutes in terms of how do you build this value area. So let's take a look at this formula in a little bit more depth. So again, we're looking at this formula, and the top, the quality and service is really your product. And you notice the product has two colors. It has that olive color in the middle and that, I guess, purple color all around it. We're going to talk about that in a little while. The other components of the formula is value and cost. And this is where we want to talk about that value area first. So typically there's 5 areas what we call value. And the other way to look at it is these are 5 typical areas of problems that people have and companies and products will solve. So in this case, as an example, even though it says value, these are all areas of problems that people solve. So let's take a look and see, what if you are a candle maker? I'm going to use a candle as an example of each of these. So the first one is functional. And so you pop up a picture of a candle. Yeah, a candle is typical generic for will light up a dark room. So that's functional. It lights and may light up the room. But then you're a candle maker and you want to create a candle that solves a social problem or symbolic problem. So you might create a candle that has religious connotations, like the picture here. And the other one is that you may want to produce a candle that has something to do with emotional context, some passion, and you may be producing birthday candles. The other one, episthetic, is really a fancy term for it's fun type of candle. So you're a candle maker and you're trying to solve problem of people who want to get candles that are fun. And so you may make these Easter egg candles. And the last one is conditional. So conditional means you're going to make a candle with a very specific type of properties. In this case, why is it not clicking? Okay, there we go. You're producing a citronella candle, which that candle helps to ward off mosquitoes. So you can see that even though you're in the candle making industry, there are 5 common types of problems that you can solve, and each of the solutions that you're going to create will solve a category of this problem. Any questions about that idea? So when you're looking at entering a marketplace, you sort of have to decide the product or even the startup. What area am I going to try to solve? A functional area, a social context area, an emotional area, epistemic or fun area, or conditional area? And that's the value side of the formula. Let's take a look at the cost side. So, the first part of the cost side is the money. It's really, really important. Yeah, how much does it cost? How much money got to come out of my pocket? But the other two is actually more important than the monetary side. Time. How much time do the customer needs to invest in trying to figure out how to solve their problem? How much, do you spend a lot of time? Do you have to talk to a lot of people? What's that effort? And that's the psychic side. How much effort do the customer have to expend to get a solution for their problem? And so these are the 3 areas in which, when you look at costs, it's not only reducing the monetary cost, but can you make it more efficient in terms of time? And can you make it a lot less effortless through reducing the psychic aspect of cost? So when we look at that, look at the value, you sort of, when you're entering a marketplace, you sort of have to have an idea of what value am I going to attack? Is it functional? Is it social, emotional, episodic? Is it conditional? Then you have to figure out, all right, what can I reduce of this? Can I reduce parts of all 3 of this, or just 2 of these, or just 1 of these? You have to try and figure out what can you reduce. And the ones that is usually most important is the time. If you get people to understand that if they can get your solution really quick, the time is one of those things that you have to sort of look at. And that has to do with efficiencies. But let's look at the top one. That top one is actually your product. And there's 2 colors to it. And I'm going to explain that. And this is the area when you're looking to enter a market. You have to understand these 2 areas of your product, whether it's a product, or a startup as a product. So let's take a look at this. Yell out again if I will confuse you if you're not careful. So if you get confused, just yell out, I'm confused. Stop, explain it. So, any questions right now? No? Just yell out, all right. So let's look. This is the critical one right here. So this core is referred to as a minimal viable product, which means it's a solution to the problem, but it's a solution that will work. It's almost like, yeah, I'm here with the solution. I can fix this. That, unfortunately, if you enter the market with only, I can fix it, and this is the minimal viable product, your chances of survival is really slim. What we need to do is to have you develop the purple side, I guess the lavender side of this. And it's called a unique value proposition. And it's you may not see it. Let me move the pictures down. It's called your differentiation or in competitive advantage. So what happens here is you may come up with this, but you need to have created or developed the outer ring, which is unique value proposition. So I'm going to show you a video. Yell out if you don't see the video. We were testing it out earlier, and one of the buttons didn't work, but I'm going to play a video. Yell out if you can't see it, and I will try it and fix it. So I'm going to play it right now. This explains what a unique value proposition is like. Naomi, can you see it?
Hear it, but cannot see it.
Okay. Okay. Let me try this again. That's the problem that we have. Let me stop share. Let's go back and share the sky.
Your UVP.
Okay, you're good.
Your
Okay.
business's unique value proposition is the basis for every message you're sending out. If you own the only shoe repair service in town, your gigantic unique value proposition may be that you're the only shoe repairer in town. It's enough to hang up a shoe and have somebody come to you. If there are 15 shoe repair shops, however, you need to be the one that stands out in the crowd somehow. Identifying your unique value proposition is no easy task because it's not just about being valuable. It's about being unique. What do you bring to the table that others do not, or cannot, or are not willing to? How does someone know that you're good at what you do? Contrary to popular belief, it's not about the Ers. Better, faster, cheaper. It's about the Ests. Those are, you're the best, you're the fastest, you're the cheapest. If you just tell me that you're cheaper, are you Walmart? Because they're the cheapest. And if you tell me about how you make people happier, are you Disneyland? Because that's the happiest place on earth. And Zappos, the best online service. And the wine bar downtown, the largest selection of wines by the glass. That's something I'll tell my friends about. My dentist, he's the friendliest. And that's why I go there. And that's his unique value proposition. Think about what is it that you bring to the table? And sometimes that's hard to do when it's you. How about you ask some of your best clients, people that view you from the outside, and say, why did you choose me over someone else? Unfortunately, there will always be a portion of the population that ignores you. It doesn't matter how good your unique value proposition is in those cases. Those consumers just don't need what your company has to offer right now. And that's okay. Because if you're memorable, they'll come back to you when it matters, or they might just end up being a surprise referral source in the end.
So what that is, every one of you, if you haven't figured out yours yet, you need to figure this out. What is one or two things, maybe three things, but you have to have a unique value proposition in place when you enter the marketplace. You have, because that will be your main calling card. That will be your competitive advantage. And unique proposition is something that and people I've spoken to, lots and lots of people, they say, I don't have one. You do have one. You just have to think it through. You have to look, and this is why we call looking for the loose brick in the wall. You have to think this through. What do I have? Is it an ingredient? Is it a composition? Is it a color? Is it a smell? What is it that when I enter the marketplace, I can say this is unique, and this is the only place or that it can be found. This takes a little thinking through, but the best thing in that video is you go back to people if you have a company now and you want to introduce a new product, or if you don't have a company now and you want to introduce your company, start to talk to people. And this is we're going to talk more about that in a little while. The people that you're currently doing business with will tell you why they're doing a business. And if you haven't started a business, go and talk to people about your idea of a product or your idea of a business and listen to what they say. In a little while, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but you have to enter the marketplace knowing what's my value prop, what makes me special, what makes my product special. And that will allow you to, sort of knock a brick out of that wall. Without it, you're going to run straight into the wall. So any questions about the unique value proposition? Guys good? All right. So I'm going to yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you mean to put your slides back up? Because
I'm going to put it up right now.
Okay.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Put my slides back up. Okay. So let me move this. One of the things about Zoom is that bar is always moving around and blocking things. So the other thing is that customers will pay for a well understood value proposition. This is critical. If you have a really good value, a unique value proposition, customers will actually pay for it. That's another way to raise your margins. So a little exercise that you can do is after this evening, you may want to just sit out there. What are my key different? What things will make you different? Play with this quite a bit. And once you have an idea, this may be it. And what's my value? Go out and talk to people and say, is that why you like my product? Is that why it is? Or what you have to do here is understand what's going to be my key differentiator, what's going to make me different, what value does it have to my customers, and will they pay for it? So that's an exercise I'm going to leave you with. So any questions before we leave this first area, the unique value proposition? Why is it so important to develop that, understand it, and use it as a way to loosen that grip? You all good? All right. Let's go on. Number 2, do you have product market fit by getting feedback through consumer and product testing research? I'm sure all of you have gone on and did some kind of customer research. So what a product market fit is really answers the question, is there a market demand for what you're selling? And are people willing to pay for it because it's better than the alternative being sold by your competitors? And the way we look at that is to look at a process of confirming that the product or the value proposition is actually your product or your company. Is it solving the problem of the target market? And so nothing else matters until you can prove that customers want your product. And before you even enter the marketplace, you sort of have to go out and try to confirm all the ideas that you think should be happening, and then confirming it with your customers. And we're going to talk about a process called customer discovery. And once you have enough confidence that you've spoken to a sufficient amount of people that you can answer, yes, I can prove that customers might want my product, then you can enter the marketplace with a lot of confidence. So let's take a look at this process. Again, what we sort of understood with the core, you got that, and you're trying to develop this. And now, how do you know that you have value proposition? It's through a process called a product market fit. And a product market fit means the product or value proposition that I'm going to deliver to my customers is really going to be accepted by my customers. I have the right solution and it has enough value for them to want it. The problem is that when we start this process, if we're not careful, we're just guessing at it. Oh yeah, they're gonna it's the typical, field of dreams. If I build it, it will come. The problem is that sometimes you build a product or you build a company, and no one comes because you built it for the wrong reason. So we use a process called a customer discovery. For a young startup, if you never ran a business before, this is usually the most uncomfortable part of startups. That's because you have to engage your customers or prospective customers. And we're going to talk about that in a little while. So the customer discovery process, customer development process is really going out and discussing your solution, your product, or your company to prospective customers. So we're going to talk about that in a process we call customer segmentation. I think all of you know what segmentation is, just a break apart. So what happens for a lot of companies that are in the startup mode, when they enter a marketplace, they try and enter talking to everyone in the marketplace. And the problem with that is they get no reaction only because it's a generic conversation. And if you start your company or your product interest with a generic conversation, no one's going to pay attention to you. So what we do here is that we break like chocolate chip, but they want something else in it. Those are different parts of a a group of people. So if you're going to go into the marketplace with a chocolate chip cookie, you have to sort of split out those that like the chocolate chip cookie, and then you go out and you speak to this group of people. This is, again, a kind of hardest part is to try to figure out who do I want to speak to, because this group of people are more likely to be receptive to my product or even to my company. Did I lose anybody with that one? No. I'm going to show you a quick video by Steve Blank, who's with Stanford University. I've worked with him a couple of times. So let me show you a quick video on that. Stop share. Let's bring it up.
So if you remember from the last lecture, value propositions, what we're really trying to do is find the right product market fit between what you're building and who wants to buy it. Again, we call this relationship between value proposition and customer segment simply product market fit. Today in customer segments, in this lecture, we're really going to ask, what job are we getting done for the customer? That is, what functional or social jobs are we going to get done? What emotional jobs? What problems or needs are we solving? What gains are we providing the customer? What pains? How does market type affect this? And at the end, what we're going to come up with is a deep understanding of the persona and archetype. Who are they? Why would they buy? Why won't they buy? What do you need to say to them? And if you spend your energy out of the building doing customer development and customer discovery here, it will make your company incredibly efficient in actually figuring out how to market and sell to them. So remember, the goal is now to connect the value proposition with what you're going to know and learn outside the building about customers.
So this is kind of critical for entering a marketplace. One of the things that happens when you don't segment your market, you're going to try and go against the entire wall, and that's not going to work really well. So you're trying to find that, again, that loose brick, and that loose brick could be a segment. Again, just using chocolate chip cookies. There's a group of people who just love chocolate chip cookies, and if you can create a chocolate chip cookie that has the biggest chocolate chips, then you're in there. But you have to be able to ask them, what size chocolate chip do you want? Or how big do you want my cookie? Or how thick do you want the cookie? Those are things that you will have to ask that prospective customer. Any questions about this customer discovery process? It oftentimes is really, if you're a startup and you're not used to talking to people, even if you have been in a business for a while, it may be you feel, oh, I can't do it because I don't want to talk to people. Go and talk to people. And I'm going to give you a warning. Sometimes it gets uncomfortable because what you thought was the answer, your prospective customers in this process will tell, no, it's not the answer. And sometimes you will get hurt feelings, but the idea is they're going to tell you, no one other than your prospective customers or customers will be able to tell you how to build that product the way they want it. And this is one of the things that in this market entry is often difficult to sort of give up or pivot. Well, I'll show you a video about that. Away from your original idea into what the customer is saying you should be creating, what they want. And that's one of the critical things about market entry. Build it the way your customer that you're looking at, your target customer, wants. Any questions about that? Again, so let me go back to the slides. So we call that listening to the voice of the customer. It has to do with going out and leaving the building and asking questions. So the next video by Steve is really going to help you figure out what questions should I ask, how should I ask them. So I have to move this because oops. Yeah. So move this, I'll hit this video. And at the end of this video, it gives you something really important that we're going to have a discussion on.
Before you go outside, if you've never done a customer discovery interview, it's probably helpful to actually do dry runs. First with maybe your co-founders, and then with some friends who are actually not inside your company, where you can actually try to do these questions without giggling hysterically or being flustered. And so just getting some practice. You don't have to practice for a week or a month, but I'd say at least 3 to 5 times just practicing this. And the first couple times you'll actually be reading off a script. And then after you get comfortable, you'll kind of understand the general gestalt of where you want to go. The other thing is, if you're a founder of a company, you ought to understand that customer discovery can't be outsourced or can't be given to an employee. It's a big idea. The reason why you're doing discovery, it's not a focus group. It's not a focus group. What you're trying to do is, number one, validate your initial hypotheses. But we now know most of your hypotheses are probably wrong. But an employee or a consultant can't take the next step, which is actually to test whether you need to iterate or pivot. They're not authorized to change the company's strategy. For customer discovery, a pivot is defined as a substantive change to one or more of the business model canvas components. What's a business model canvas component? Who's the customer? What's the product? What's the channel? How are we doing acquisition? What's the pricing? Only founders could look at a customer and say, you really didn't like that pricing. Well, what if I did it on a subscription basis? All of a sudden, a customer might go, subscription, that's great. You can't expect an employee or a consultant to ask those questions. So, one of the things we talk about before you get out of the building is called designing pass-fail experiments. And this might seem really complicated, like it requires math or formulas or whatever, but a pass-fail experiment is almost as simply as setting up a bet with yourself. And the bet with yourself could be, well, I think I'm going to be talking to these customers, and here's the reaction I think they're going to have. Or it could be, I think it's going to be men 35 to 43 who will love this product. And later when you find out it's teens, 18 to 22, who live in urban areas, you're going to kind of go, lost that bet, but learned a lot. Or later on, as you're actually testing customer acquisition, you might be making more sophisticated bets. Gee, I think for every $10 in keywords, I'm going to get 43 people to hit the site, and then 10% of them will actually activate. Really interesting to see what the data looks over time. So instead of just getting random numbers back, you've set a set of expectations based on some hypotheses or maybe some earlier data, and you now get to compare your hypotheses with the experiments and the data. And what you're looking for is insight. Why were we right? Why were we wrong? What's the next step to take?
So that last part is important. You're looking for insights. You're really trying to find out, where's the core strength of my product, the core strength of my startup? Because again, as you go in and you talk to people, and you'll have to develop your own set of questions that you want to find out, what you're looking for is, where is my strength? And that, again, this is another way to find that loose brick. If you know what your strength is based on this customer discovery process and product market fit, then you can enter the marketplace with a lot of confidence that there is acceptance within this narrow group of market segments, instead of just guessing everyone's going to like it. Let's go back to the slides. Share my screen. Where's my slides? Yeah. Okay. Let me move this off to the side. So again, what you want to do is you want to sort of write down, do you have product market fit? And if you feel you don't, start to write some questions out and start to talk to people and try to find out through insight, to questioning and answer, listening to the answers, where is the strength of your product, if it's a product entry, or where's the strength of my startup, if it's a startup entry. And this is something you'll be working at prior to entering the marketplace. 3, do you know your brand positioning? Again, we're going to talk about, so brand positioning is creating this, I'm trying to move this around so you can see the whole thing. So brand positioning is creating a unique value and memorable place for a brand in the minds of target consumers by highlighting key benefits and differentiating. This, again, is something you do prior to entering the marketplace. You have to create a brand. And so a brand isn't just a word or a diagram. It's a completely different composition. So what we do is we do something called positioning. If you look at to your right, you'll see 4 automotive brands. And almost automatically, if you sort of look at and been driving cars around, you recognize those 4 emblems. And that is called positioning. In fact, most of you, if not all of you, can recognize the brand by the most expensive to the least expensive of these expensive motor cars. And so this is what you want to do to prepare yourself in terms of entering a marketplace. You want to have an idea of what my brand is and how am I going to position it against my competition. You cannot come in guessing. You have to have a strategic, you may have to change it once you enter and you get reaction, but you have to have it set prior to entering the marketplace. What you want to do is a brand is something that has to do with 3 components. The benefits that we sort of talk about, when they acquire a product or a service, they get some benefits and some usage out of it. What's the value of that benefit that you've acquired? Do you really like it? Does it solve their problem? And the other one is oftentimes overlooked is the experience. What experience will you want them to have when they buy or use your product or your service? These are the 3 components. And in fact, I keep moving the pictures, so it's hard to see. What you want to do is to really try to figure out what's my brand positioning. And you do that by identifying your target customer. You can decide, again, who the group of people that you are going to focus on first. Emphasize what makes your brand unique, and we worked on that earlier, that unique value proposition. And emphasize the benefits and experience you want. The key point is, what's the experience that you want them to enjoy? Because it's in the experience that will build your brand. The benefits and values are great, but once they start to use your product or your products that you're offering, it's how they feel is going to be important. And to do that, I'm going to show you a quick video. And this is just for exercise purposes only, but it's a video on how to create a brand positioning statement. And you can use this to just toy around with if you haven't developed your brand positioning. So let me show this guy.
A brand positioning statement will help your business to define. Isn't enough to have a product or service that sells on features and benefits. People are looking for experience and to belong. So that you know what a brand positioning statement is, let's take a look at 2 examples, one from Nike and one from Starbucks. So here's the one from Nike. For serious athletes, Nike gives you confidence that provides the perfect shoe for every sport. And then Starbucks. To cultured millennials, Starbucks is a premium coffee house that adds an intimate and valuable experience to a consumer's lifestyle by integrating caffeine with a comfortable environment. So as you can see, the brand positioning statement includes a brief description of your target market and then how you want that market to perceive and experience your brand. So how do you go about creating a brand positioning statement? Well, you need to answer these 3 questions. Number 1, who are my customers? Number 2, What benefits does my product or service offer to its users? And 3, who are my competitors? And what do I mean by question number 3? Well, what I'm asking there is, how do your competitors differentiate and position themselves compared to yours? Are they saying they have a better environment? Is it an ease of use? Do they have more expertise, etc.? So once you've answered those 3 questions, your brand positioning statement should describe succinctly what core benefit your product or service offers compared to that of your competitors. Here's a template that you can use to create your own statement. And what you need to do is you need to fill in the blanks from the answers to the questions that we asked ourselves earlier. Let's take the 2 examples that we spoke about earlier from Nike and Starbucks and drop those into the template. So with Nike, we have for serious athletes, that's the customer group. Nike is the brand, gives confidence, is a differentiating benefit for the customer by providing the perfect shoe for every sport. And that's how they make it possible. Next up, we've got the Starbucks one. Let's drop that in. So we've got to cultured millennials, again, the customer group. Starbucks is your brand. Is a premium coffee house that adds an intimate and valuable experience to a consumer's lifestyle, differentiating benefit by integrating caffeine with a comfortable environment, how they make it possible. Having a good brand, product or service isn't always about features and benefits. What they're looking for is an experience, a great feeling from using your product or service. And a good way to show people what they will get by using your product or service is by having a great brand positioning statement. One key thing to mention though, is that when you create that positioning statement, everyone, and I mean everyone who is involved in your brand in any way, must live by that statement. It's only through build-up of experiences of hundreds or thousands of people talking to one another, talking about the experience that they've had with your brand, that builds that trust and loyalty. If not everyone is singing along the same lines of your brand positioning statement, then it just will not work for your brand. But hey, we know, don't we, that you're going to write the best positioning statement and everyone involved in your brand is going to sing the song of that statement. So much so that your brand is going to rock.
So toy around. You'll get access to the video so you can watch that and toy with that template. But toy around with it. See if you can come up with one that you can actually use in entering a marketplace. Any questions by anyone right now? You all good? All right. Let's take a look at 4 things. So these are areas, I keep moving this in. So these are areas you can use for positioning basis, a unique feature, price or quality, application, how to use it, product composition, product class, competitor, some emotion. So this will just give you an idea of areas in which you can sort of base your positioning on. I just thought I'd throw that in. So I guess we've been at this for a while, so you may be lost. So just real quick. So we started off with your product, the core minimal viable product, and your total product, gone to customer discovery. Then we did that, and we tested a hypothesis, and then we came up with a pivot. And let me move you all around again one more time so I can move this along. So we came up with a unique value proposition, and you have your differentiation positioning, which now have created your brand and your brand promise. So that's where we've taken you so far. So we're at an area where you sort of have to answer this question. Have you established what position you're going to pursue against your competitor? If you haven't done so, start to work on it. If you have already, start to really look at it and really say, do I have a position against my competition. So the fourth one, do you know where and how you're going to enter the marketplace? This one, we're going to do some quick checklist sort of things. Because what we want to do, when you enter the marketplace, you have to make sure you're in the right area, positioning to do so. So what we'll look at, again, is what category are you in? Are you in the right distribution channel? Where are your customers can find the product, and how are you going to enter the marketplace? We're going to do this in a real quick checklist fashion. So first of all, if you have a new product or a new startup, there are different categories of new, and this will determine how your messaging is going to be when you enter the market. So new to the world, simply if this product has never existed before and you have created something brand new, more than likely you can do a new product line. So you've been creating chocolate chip cookies, you're now going to create almond cookies, and so that would be a new product line. New product additions, you've been creating cinnamon bread, and now to my line of cinnamon breads, I'm going to add one olive bread. Just an addition. So it's brand new to the line. New and improved, this is always going to be important. Yeah, I've made this even better. Reposition, I mean, maybe this should be sold at a higher price point or higher image, change it a little bit, or now I've been selling it too high, I'm going to lower the price even lower. So these are categories of what we call new products. And most of you here, when you talk, you're here because you're interested in entering a market. And when you're entering a market, you got to enter the market as news. So you might want to look at what categories am I entering the market? Because this will be affected how you communicate. Also, there's for consumer, remove this guy over here. Consumer offering. Convenience means my product is such that I need to sell it all. Chewing gum is a typical example. Shopping is when your product is going to be offered in limited distribution and people will seek it out to different stores. Or your product is so specialized and very high end, and it's going to be found in only one specific area. Unsought is something that you don't want to do because people are going to buy it only when they need it. The most typical example of unsought is a coffin. So this will determine if you're in the right distribution, because again, if you are in this intensive, which means you are a convenience product, you have to be in as many locations as possible. If you're selective, your product is going to be something that's going to be shopped out. You might just choose just a couple or 3 locations to sell it. Or if your product is so exclusive, and it can be only sold as one. So this will determine your distribution. And this is just a diagram. Most of you are in from producer to consumer. This again will determine if you're in the right distribution channel. A lot of companies start off from producer to consumer, and then they scale. And as you scale, you need to add more partners in terms of intermediaries. So you're going to check that. The other one you do a quick checklist is brick and mortar. In today's economy, you have to be involved. You have to be, you're going to be brick and mortar as some form of e-commerce or heavily e-commerce in some form of brick and mortar. But you have to be in both because your customers are now moving back and forth more rapidly between these two. The one that I really want to talk about on that quick checklist is how you're going to enter. These are 4 categories of how you're going to enter the marketplace. The first one, this purple box, is called existing products into an existing market. This means that you're going to attack the market. You're going to enter the market in an area in which you have to actually muscle your way in. Because if you come in that market and there's a lot of people within that space, to get into it, you need to just muscle your way in. And a lot of times you don't have enough capital or you don't have enough assets to really just muscle yourself into market penetration. But a lot of startups and new products try to do that. So you sort of have to have a lot of resources, money especially. The other one is to take that existing product and try to find a new market for it. This is a kind of interesting. If If you find that you don't have enough muscle to enter this market, you may want to find a different way to it. And I had a conversation earlier with somebody who said, well, I have to get into the sauce business over here, which is tough. But then maybe if you looked at, well, let's go after the restaurant business in terms of ingredients, then perhaps you can break into that market instead of being a condiment in the sauce market. You're now an ingredient in the restaurant market. So this is another way in which you can sort of look at, if I take this product that I have, if I look for a new market, can I penetrate it? And oftentimes you can. The other one that you can try is to take a brand new product and you may have a new formulation and brand new and go into an existing market. That's called product development. This is usually the easiest one because your new product is going to introduce into a market, but then you have that unique value proposition. You have your positioning in place. You also have your brand in place. And so you can enter this product development area sort of easier because you're not really bustling your way in. You actually have carved yourself into a position in this market. The one that's most difficult and not really recommended for new things is this guy, diversification, a new product in a new market. This is a double unknown, the unknown product as well as the unknown market. So it's a really high risk. So if you're going to enter the market, you have to select, am I going to try and muscle my way into it? But if you have a brand new product, you might want to go to product development and find your niche in that. Or if not, if you have a existing product and you want to find a new market, this is another avenue to enter. And usually when this product is now being exhausting because you can't fight off these, this is an area in which you might want to decide, let me try and find a new market for it. And usually you can detect one or two types of market. So any questions about that, how to enter? And the three that you can enter and the one that you should avoid. Yeah. We're almost at the end. I'll probably run over maybe about 10 minutes. I apologize. But I want to cover this final area that's going to be really important. So let me try to get to that area. Yeah. Kelly, you got a question?
What would be an example of the high risk one, the new product into a new market?
Okay, so the one that was really risky was the iPhone into when the iPhone came out, it was a combination of multiple units, and it was going into an unexisting marketplace. There was no product that was like the iPhone. The iPhone has a computer, has a phone, has a whole bunch of stuff and cameras, and there was no market as it was in existence. So they entered it, and that was high risk. What a lot of people know, do you know about Apple and those guys? They don't know about the 20 companies who tried to enter and fail. And Apple and that area, the only reason they succeeded was they watched all the failures. So that's an interesting story about the.
So Google Glass could be another example that didn't go well.
Yeah. So if you look at all the successful IT tech things, if you dig back, you see about 20 failures, and they're building upon each failure. Great question. Okay, good. All right. So let me get back. Any more questions? Let's get back to this. So next is ready, set, enter the marketplace and announce your arrival. This is going to be good. So we've got you set yourself up. You have everything in place, and now you're going to enter the marketplace. And you have to announce your arrival. And so it has to do with three forms of communications. It's going to you're going to be informing the market that you're entering about you, because you're brand new, or you're going to be trying to persuade them to use your new product or a new addition to your product line, or you're going to remind them that we have an addition and this is an old good brand that you've always been buying, but I guess have something brand new. So you're either going to be informing, or you're going to try to persuade them, or you're going to try to remind them. And this is important because you have to select just one form. And it depends on this category. If you're new to the world, you're going to be informing them. If you're new product line, you're adding something new, you might be either persuading or reminding them. New product addition is always, you're going to remind them that you've been buying my brand for a long time. I just got them really brand new for you to try. New and improved, same thing. You're going to be reminding them that I have a solid brand from the past, and now why don't you try it? And reposition is the same thing. So what you're going to do is that when you enter the marketplace, you're going to select, am I going to inform? Am I going to persuade? Am I going to remind? And that messaging has to be carried through all of your advertising, public relations, your promotions, your trade promotions, direct. So you have to be very consistent in the messaging that you're going to use to announce your arrival in the marketplace. Does that make sense? What happens a lot of times is that they try to enter the marketplace using all three of these, and all you do is they confuse the market into what the message is. So you want to be consistent in what you're going to be delivering and why you're delivering that message. And this is called the AIDA model. Let me move that out so you can see. And this is typical of advertising. What you want to do, let me move these bars are just always in the way. So when you're in the communications channel, your message should try to drive attention, drive interest, drive desire, which is always end in the action or try to acquire. So when you're creating your message, that message should try to drive attention, which then drives to interest, desire. But always, I usually recommend that in any messaging, you should have a call to action. This is what I want you to do. Because you want to not just make contact, but you want to activate those people that you come in contact with. When you're entering a marketplace, what you need to do is to acquire customers. And when you're delivering your messaging, whatever messaging you want to deliver, it should always end in some kind of call to, this is what I want you to do. So send me an email or buy the product or whatever it is, but try to get them to activate. So any questions on that? The last part, again, this is a quick check list, but there's often people who want to scale, and there's something I want to cover on scaling real briefly. It's called a beachhead market. And what a beachhead market is a narrow market segment that a company focuses on to establish a foothold to get traction. And let me show you a quick 2-minute video. That's the reason I say it's probably going to be 10 minutes long. This video, some of you are not ready to scale. Some of you are ready to scale. But when you're going to scale, this little video will help you. And what we've been talking about this evening will help you to scale. So I'm going to show this video, and we'll come back real fast. Oh, what?
Adopt new products or behaviors sooner than others? In 1962, Everett Rogers, a professor of rural psychology, developed a theory called the diffusion of innovations to explain this phenomenon. Rogers found that individuals within any society fall into one of 5 different adopter groups based on how early or how quickly they adopt an innovation. Rogers' theory tells us that if you want to promote the widespread adoption of a new behavior like these, you need to market to each adopter group differently, using distinct communication channels and messages. Let's look at each group to find out more. The innovators are a small but important group because they are always the first to learn about and adopt an innovation. They are risk-taking, adventurous, and like being on the cutting edge. The innovators are responsible for introducing innovations to the larger population because they share their experiences with their friends and communities. The early adopters are also a small, forward-thinking group and are often highly respected as opinion leaders. Their endorsement of an innovation plays a key role in what we call crossing the chasm, which is when the adoption of an innovation bridges the gap between the trendsetters and the majority. About 2/3 of people in a population fall into either the early or late majority groups. The early majority take time to make decisions. They will observe others' experiences and will only adopt the product once they are convinced it has real benefits and that it is the new status quo. The late majority are more resistant to change, though they are very responsive to peer pressure. They want innovations to be very well tested and widely used before they will risk trying it. Finally, the last group to adopt a new product or innovation is called the laggards. Laggards are highly resistant to change, and they also can be hard to reach with marketing campaigns because they often have very minimal exposure to media. Laggards wait until an innovation is completely mainstream before they adopt it, and in some cases, they never do. Think of some global innovations in recent years. Social media, for example, spread very fast and many people adopted it within a few years. Other innovations, such as the use of solar power, spread much more slowly and may take decades to reach widespread adoption. So the next time you're promoting a new product or behavior, consider the theory of diffusions of innovations and tailor your communication channels and messages. This will improve your chance of catalyzing widespread adoption.
And the reason I wanted to show that, because some of you are going to scale, some of you are already in the process of scaling. Let me show you one couple of final slide. Why I showed you that video. Oh, did I? Yep. Share screen. Yep. Wrong one. Sorry, I have. Let me get back to share screen. Scroll all the way down to that final slide. Yep. This is it right here. Okay. So the reason I wanted to show you that if you're going to scale, this is called a chasm. This is where startups and new products go to die. And the reason is that they're not able to jump this chasm. So everybody will be doing great, and then they try to jump, but they can't make it. They can't reach the greater market. And the reason they can't jump it is because they don't have what that beachhead market is. And the sort of idea is you need to have a hold on a small segment that you say, this is my segment. Then that segment will then translate to the greater market. Like this is the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. Yeah. So when that happens, you can jump the chasm and you can actually scale. The idea behind this is that when you enter the market, that will be your best opportunity to build this chasm jumping product. Because everything, if you go back and look at the video, and you have access to the video of this evening, you'll see that everything is targeted for entry. And when you land in the entry, this will always be an impetus so that you can grab hold of a segment of the market, and that will allow you to cross that chasm. And this is the reason why so many startups, either in products or companies, go to die, because they haven't jumped it, because they haven't grabbed hold. They haven't have they don't hold a segment of the market. So this is the reason, again, why I wanted to in the evening, in the event you want to scale, but why it was important to enter the market in a specific way, in a specific way of thinking, so that when you want to scale down the road, you already are owning a segment that will say, yeah, go ahead, jump that chasm. So any questions right now? So a couple of quick slides, and then I'm going to ask for questions real quick. These are commercials, by the way, what's coming up. So everyone here has a limited one-on-one complimentary consultation with me. All you have to do is contact the Whiteboard Value Added Center, and then we can schedule either a Zoom or in-person consultation, story about your business or your product. And we also want you to schedule a visit. If you haven't visited our Value Added Center in Wahiawa, we want you to schedule a visit. We want you to tour. If you haven't toured for a while, come back. Well, things are changing dramatically, so you'll find some new and improved things there. And lastly, thank you so much for coming. And I appreciate that you investing this evening, especially investing an additional 10 minutes in the evening. So any questions or concerns? So just ask away if you have questions or anything, comments. No? All right. Sure.
Good job, Doug.
Thanks so much, Al. All right, thank you so much. So if there's no questions, and if you ever think about it, just email Naomi and she can forward it to me, or schedule a consultation. But I appreciate you all investing your time this evening. And again, hopefully I was helpful. And again, I look forward to seeing you all again in another session down the road. And have a great evening. Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight.